Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 99 of Generation GC, Riot Girl, from The Young and the Hopeless, Good Charlotte's second album, released in 2002 with my guest, Jessie Raye. My name is Molly Hudelson, once again, and as always, I'm your host, as well as the producer, creator, and editor of this podcast. Last time, we talked about I Heard You from Good Charlotte, the band's self-titled debut album. On our next episode, we'll be talking about a song from the Chronicles of Life and Death. And our next episode is episode 100. That's incredible. Jessie Raye is a writer and artist from North Carolina. She's in discovery and constantly learning more about herself, our world, and how we can explore our lives through mythology, holistic medicine, creativity, psychology, and mysticism. Jessie writes and creates to find balance, healing, and meaning in her life. She loves music, good food, and dancing like no one's watching. Pretty cool. And Jessie has been a fan of Good Charlotte since 2002. Also, hello, new episodes 2 weeks in a row. Oh yeah. Feels pretty good. I am feeling just really confident that I am on track to getting towards a more regular schedule for the podcast again. I have recorded up to episode 103, which should take us pretty much through the end of 2022, and in the coming weeks, I am going to evaluate what a good plan and schedule looks like for Generation GC in 2023, so of course, I will keep you all updated. Make sure you are following on socials. And yeah, like many of you listening from the US, I will be traveling for Thanksgiving in the coming days. I would love to get episode 100 up next week, but we'll just have to see. Thank you for listening and supporting Generation GC since I first announced the show in the spring of 2020, or if you're a more recent listener, I am so happy to have you, and I can't wait for you to hear what I have planned. A few reminders before we go into the episode. First, I love having guests from all around the world and from all different backgrounds on Generation GC. If English isn't your first language, that's okay. As long as you're comfortable holding a conversation in English, you're good to go. And different backgrounds doesn't just mean location or ethnicity, it means ensuring a varied gender and sexuality representation and representing fans of different ages and fans with your own unique life experiences of any sort. So if you think you might want to be a guest on Generation GC in 2023, reach out. Get in touch. I'd love to talk to you. Finally, Generation GC stickers are here. If you do want a sticker, all you got to do is support the show on Anchor. Go to anchor.fm/generationgcpod and click support. Send me a screenshot of your support as well as your mailing address, and I will send you stickers. All that money goes right back into making the show the best that it can be, such as printing and shipping the stickers, as well as getting any supplies I need to keep the show going. It really helps me out. Thank you for tuning in to Generation GC episode 99, Riot Girl with Jessie Raye. You can follow Generation GC on social media at Generation GC Pod, POD, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you want to reach out to get some stickers, you can hit me up on socials or send me an email, generationgcpod@gmail.com. Thank you for tuning in, and now on to the episode.
Okay, so today we are talking about Riot Girl. Riot Girl is track 9 on The Young and the Hopeless, Good Charlotte's second album released in 2002. Track 8 was Hold On. Track 10, I realize there's a typo in my notes, but track 10 is Say Anything. Riot Girl was not a single, but this has been played live a ton. Setlist.fm lists 190 plays for the song. Obviously, that's not necessarily accurate, but they do rank it as number 10 of their most played songs. For reference, Little Things is their 8th most played. Hold On is the 9th most played. Predictable is the 11th. And I was kind of going through these, the shows they played at, and they pretty much play Riot Girl at every show, like headlining or festival. Like Hold On, every headlining show, but that doesn't really get played at festivals. Riot Girl is pretty common. It might not be every single show. I'm looking at the set list that I have, and no, they played Riot Girl, but it's a pretty common show, and this is in a way, I think a definitive song for GC that a lot of people identified with like even the name of the song, and they had merch specifically for this song. Like I have a GC Riot Girl magnet on my fridge. I'll send you a picture of that after, Jessie. It came in a 2-pack, and it was like Riot Grrrl, and then there was like a photo of the band. It just said the band name. And they were on my locker in 9th grade, and they are now in my fridge at almost 31 years old. I'm pretty sure there were shirts that said Riot Grrrl. A lot of people had AIM screen names or MySpace names like GC Riot Grrrl or like Riot Girl and then some number. So there's so much to talk about with this song. But before we dive into that, Jessie, I want to help our listeners get to know you. And the first question I like to ask is, when did you first hear Good Charlotte, and what were your first thoughts on them?
So when I first heard Good Charlotte, I first heard Good Charlotte in 2002. So 20 years ago. I was a freshman in high school. It was my freshman art class, to be specific. And I met a girl who, looking back now, was probably the first Riot girl I met in my life. I grew up in a really small farming town in North Carolina. So the punk scene was non-existent. There was nothing like that where I grew up. So I literally had Amish babysitters as a kid.
Oh, wow.
As a kid. People like drove tractors to high school as like their form of transportation. So I met this girl, Amanda, in high school, and she was this cool, artsy, angry, expressive human, and we just immediately got along. And she introduced me to things like vampirefreaks.com and MySpace. And she was
Vampire Freaks. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, that's a throwback. Yes.
Yeah.
And she had black eyeliner, and she was this great artist. And I thought she was so cool. And she introduced me to a lot of music. And I remember she gave me a stack of her CDs to take home and listen to. And within that stack of CDs was Good Charlotte's The Young and the Hopeless, along with Rancid and Out Come the Wolves, which is also another big album for me for that time. I know they're like BFFs, and there's a lot of ties with Rancid and Good Charlotte. So I had my Rancid posters right next to my Good Charlotte posters in high school. So I took that album home, and I remember I listened to it. And for me, and this is how I've sort of listened to music my whole life, if I love and connect with something, I become obsessive with it. I will listen to the same songs 75 times and just repeat over and over again. And I remember having that same feeling when I listened to Good Charlotte. I had already sort of been diving into maybe the rock or the punk scene via Linkin Park's Hybrid Theory in the 8th grade. Okay. So I was already sort of going towards that path. And I listened to them, and they gave me a space to express feelings that had otherwise been shut out. They talk a lot about growing up in a small town, about being an outcast, about having a shit relationship with your father. All of these things resonated with me as a young, confused, insecure girl.
Yeah.
And I think specifically with Riot Grrrl, it was an invitation for me to be something different than what I was seeing on TV, what you were supposed to be, like a Britney Spears or a Christina Aguilera.
Right, that was the messaging.
That was the messaging. So in high school, I was 6 feet tall at like 13.
Oh my gosh.
And I had struggled with acne. I would struggle with hormonal problems. So I went up and down with my weight. I did not look at all like a Britney Spears character. So for me, there was a lot of reasons why I loved Good Charlotte. Their melodies and, the harmonies and their catchy music. But I think for me more, it was a resonance with the lyrics and maybe finding a place that I hadn't otherwise found yet, a place where I felt like I could be more myself and express myself in that way.
I love that. And I think, everyone I talk to on this show, the common thread I think a lot of us have is that like a lot of us have in some way or another felt like an outcast, like an outsider. And there's a lot, oh my God, there's so much to get into with this song. But just some more background on you. Have you ever seen Good Charlotte live?
Yes, I have. So I saw them for the first time. I saw them at Warped Tour a couple times throughout the years, but I saw them as a full band in 2017 at Slam Dunk Fest when they
Ooh,
played Slam Dunk Fest. So I was in the UK. I actually got to go to that.
fun.
Was it 2007 or 2018? I can't remember. It was whatever year they played. So I saw them 3 days in a row. I got there three,
That's
three
so
times in a
fun.
week. Yeah, it
Ugh.
was really cool. And it was really cool too because my best friend, who I've had the same best friend since I was a kid, and her and I loved Good Charlotte together
Is
collectively.
this Amanda?
No, this is Emily. So Emily
Okay,
and
okay.
I, so she moved to the UK, so she's living in the UK. And so when I
Amazing.
was over there, she got to go with me. So we got to like sing all of, Riot Girl, Hold On, Life
Oh, I
Rest of
love
Famous.
that.
And so I got to see them in 2018, and it was really great. It was kind of after sort of the resurgence of Good Charlotte. They kind of went away
Hmm.
for a little while, and it was a really cool experience. So I did get to see them 3 times, and it was really awesome.
Amazing. I love that. Okay, so I have you had a lot of cool stuff in your bio, but one thing that like piqued my interest, you mentioned you just love to like dance like nobody's watching. So I want to know, what are you dancing to lately? What music are you playing when you're dancing around the house?
That's such a great question. And I'll answer very specifically. Right now, and what I was doing this morning before we got on this call was dancing around to the 1975 Happiness, the new
Okay.
song. But
Oh, okay. I haven't heard it.
yeah, specifically the dance floor edit. I'm
Okay.
not like a huge 1975 fan in general. Like, I'm not familiar with their whole albums and things, but I do find songs of theirs that I like and connect with. And this song specifically is so freaking dancey and
Okay.
groovy, and putting it on with my good headphones and just like dancing around the house. It's like there's nothing better than dancing around your house and singing music when nobody's around and just like letting go and feeling
It's the
free.
best
I
feeling.
feel like I turn into stardust and no one acts like my human body physically disappears and I just become one with like the universe. I feel this way also about Delicate by Taylor Swift. That's like
Oh,
that's
that's
one
been
that
one of my go-tos
that's
lately.
my like go-to
I
is Delicate. I'll put that on and I'm just like, oh
I went to a Taylor Swift dance party a couple weeks ago,
I
which
love
was so
that.
much fun. It was like appro- honestly appropriately like the first time I like went out dancing since I've been single. Um and the first time I like really went out dancing or anything like that since my knee surgery, and it was so awesome, like so unbelievably cathartic.
Yes.
Um but I dance around a lot, but I like sing in the shower like full volume.
Oh,
Um
same. Full concert.
yeah,
Full blown concert. Neighbors probably here. Don't care.
yeah. No, amazing. You are still tagging on in your bio that you sent me. Just you're really big on writing, creating, and using those to find balance and healing. And I'm kind of curious if just like music has recently taught you anything about yourself or about the world in general.
This
Deep question.
this question, you could start an entire separate podcast.
I know.
This question, and
I
you
know.
could do it for the rest of your life and still not get the
Oh,
right.
I know.
Which I love, but the deep questions are the ones I love. I love the
Yeah.
questions where you don't get the answers. So music has, and I thought about this all day yesterday. I was like, this is such a great question. I really want to think about this. What music has taught me, and it's like I feel like music found me and has been the ever present love in my life when I had none. Music was my first love. The first great love of my life is music. So it's taught me anything a great love would teach you. Discipline, to listen, to get in touch with your feelings, to move, and it makes you feel better. It's taught me everything. It's taught about the world. Man, it shows me the depth and beauty of the human species. If you look at music collectively, I love Good Charlotte, but I also love all music.
Yeah.
If it connects to my heart, if I resonate with it, I love it. And that spans genres and time and artists. And it just teaches me that we all have things in common. When I've felt most alone in my life is when a song finds its way into my ears.
Yes.
And then I'm like, well, if this person's singing so much about them being alone, and I feel the exact same way, then I'm not alone.
Yes,
right?
That's exactly it. Yeah.
So it's taught me that even in my most desperate, painful moments in my life, that I'm never really alone. I think that's the biggest thing that it's taught me.
I love that. And I know just like there's like so many things that I feel like I could talk to you about even without getting into Good Charlotte.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But a question I did want to pose to you. So we had connected on Twitter. I don't remember when we first connected on Twitter, but I do remember like when I started watching Grey's Anatomy last year, you had replied to some of my tweets. You're like, oh my God, I love this. And I did get to have a similar conversation with Tiffany Cobb, talking about Degrassi. So I want to ask you, which Grey's Anatomy characters do you think would be good Charlotte fans?
This is the best question I've ever heard in my life.
Yes.
So Grey's Anatomy, for context, got me through. I binged like 11 seasons of Grey's Anatomy in like 3 months. It got me through a really terrible breakup that I was going through at the time. And Grey's Anatomy was like the only thing that was more traumatic than what I was experiencing in my own life, because I would watch what happened and be like, well, I ain't got it that bad, even through my terrible breakup. So it like cathartically got me through a really shitty time.
I totally get that.
But I definitely think, and we agree, George, 100%. George would be the biggest Good Charlotte fan. And here's what I think. I think George would infiltrate the entire staff, and he would get everybody to be secret Good Charlotte fans, but no one would tell each other that they were Good Charlotte fans because they were embarrassed. And then after the fact, they would like,
all find each other at a show. They would all run into each other at a show.
Yeah, or like Callie would put on like Riot Girl while she was performing surgery, and then everybody would start singing along together, and they would all look around and like have this moment of like, oh, we love George. I don't want to spoil alert or anything. We love George.
Yeah.
I think that's what be. And yes, I think Meredith would. Could you imagine like that scene, like with Hold On, like that whole?
So I was watching, I have cable and I put on, ABC was showing, or whatever channel was showing reruns. And it must have been the first season. And it was Thanksgiving, and Meredith just says something to Alex where she's like, I'm so miserable and sad. I'm going to infect everybody with my misery. Something along those lines. And I was like, George would definitely drag this woman to a Good Charlotte show, and she would be like, pouting and doing her little Meredith, like, and then she would hear them do a speech for Hold On and start just like crying, and all of a sudden she would love Good Charlotte too.
Yes, I think they would both do their eyeliner together. Like George would help her with her eyeliner, like he would be putting his on.
Oh, 100%.
Like, no, honey, we need more black. Yeah, we need more black everything.
One slight addendum I want to make to what I said in my notes was, I think Christina would also be like a lifelong Good Charlotte fan. Like, I don't think George would have to like show her Good Charlotte. I think Christina would be like a secret lifelong Good Charlotte fan.
Yeah.
And then
I could totally see Christina and Meredith doing their like bestie dance to like Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. Like where they like dance it out. Like I feel like I could totally see them doing that.
Christina and George run into each other, the day that Good Morning Revival comes out, buying it at the store,
and they like,
and George is like,
and Christina's like, I'm not here. What?
I don't have emotions. I'm Christina. I don't have emotions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's just a stack of like the most emo bands you could possibly think of, and she's like buying them all, and she's just the biggest emo. Absolutely.
What? I just bought the Black Parade. No, I'm not emo. I don't have emotions. Like, I'm Christina. Yeah. Oh my God. Well, Jessie, obviously lots we could talk about, but I want to get into Riot Grrrl. I want to know, and you did mention some of this before, but anything you want to share about what sticks out to you about Riot Grrrl?
So what sticks out to me, I think really just what sticks out to me the most is the perspective it allows me to see through what a guy was thinking a girl was.
Okay.
That's the thing that sticks out to me most is because when I heard this first, I was 13 years old the first time I heard this song. So I was right at that age where I was trying to figure out how to get love and how to be somebody.
Right, like you're having crushes and
right, absolutely. So for me, what sticks out to this song the most is identifying with that in that way.
Yeah. No, I think that's such an interesting point because like I was 11, almost 12 when I first heard this song, and I had a crush, but he was like a jock. So he would not have gone for like a Riot Girl, nor was I any kind of Riot Girl then. This was like before I'd ever gone to a Hot Topic, you know?
Right.
But Good Charlotte's fans, most of us at that time were like young tweens, young teenagers, and figuring ourselves out and kind of like experiencing crushes and stuff like that for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it gave me an identity then.
Okay. Like, this is what I want to be.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I was like, well, I'm going to be a Riot Girl. Like that if that's what he wants, you know, again, and it ties back into, you know, the whole not having a great relationship with your dad, me being a female, you know, I wanted someone to love me. So if that's what he wants, and that's
I'll
what
just
I can
do
be.
what he
Absolutely. And I think and it tied in too with my own, I felt anger in my own way. Like I was very angry about a lot of stuff, still am. I still don't know how to process that emotion. Anger is a very elusive emotion to me that I still don't know how to process. But I think then it just, when you're that age, you're looking for your identity. You're figuring out who you are. And I think I didn't fit in anywhere else in society that I had seen comfortably, but I felt like I fell into that very comfortably. I was angry. I wanted to get piercings and tattoos. I hadn't got to that yet, you know. I think it gave me sort of like an identity in that way.
Sure.
Because I had already experienced Riot Grrrl, but in a different way, because I grew up in the South in North Carolina in the 90s. So like my first Riot Girl was like Shania Twain or like Reba McEntire. Like
which are also Riot Girls. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
I need to send you, my friend Joel Funk wrote an essay a few years ago about the Chicks, formerly Dixie Chicks, and how they are like a punk rock legend. And they like shared it on their Facebook and everything. It is wonderful, and I feel like you would appreciate that.
Yeah, I would love to. Yes, please send it to me.
It's so great. Well, I do want to, we'll obviously get into, you know, the Riot Grrrl movement itself in a sec, but I want to step back and ask, what's your interpretation of this song? Like, what's going on in this song? What is Joel singing about?
That's a great question, and I printed out the lyrics in front of me, and I
I have them up, and I have my notes, and I have the lyrics up.
As a younger teenager, I thought he was singing about, you know, his girlfriend. As a 33-year-old, more aware woman, I read over this and I honestly don't know what it means because none of it makes sense to me. In the way that it's like, it sort of wraps up this, how like the Pixie Manic Girls kind of
Pixie Dream Girl,
that, thank you for correcting me. That vibe is like, it was an identity, or it's where I see it now. It's like, I even ask here, she, you know, when she says my girl's a hot girl, a Riot Girl, and she's angry at the world, it's all, he's talking about her anger in this song, but and how he wants her, about that's his baby, but nowhere in the song does it talk about or question why she is angry
or what she's angry at,
or what she's angry about. So it's like, I grew up in an angry household. Anger and attitude are not fun things to be around.
Right.
You know, so like, it's, you know, a hood rat who needs an attitude adjustment. Like, it's this idealizing this fantasy of his, where I thought it was about me, But this song's about him, about what he's projecting he wants. You know what I mean?
I think you have a good point there. So like I now as a 30-year-old, I take this song as he's talking about like his fantasy girl. This is not about a real girl. Mm-hmm. It is my interpretation of it. You know, his dream girl is a punk rocker with tattoos and piercings. She doesn't like mainstream pop culture. But I think you have a good point in talking about anger, like something, you know, something that's like in recent years become something I've been aware of is like, and I'm not saying this applies to this song directly, but just as you're talking about anger, like if a man refers to all of his exes as crazy, it's kind of like
red flag.
Well, it's kind of like, oh, who made them crazy? What is crazy? You know? So it's like, okay, this girl is angry. Well, like, is she angry because she has a bad home life with her parents? Is she angry because, you know, women don't have equal rights? Is she angry because of other social issues? Is she angry because her boyfriend isn't treating her well? You know, like,
what about that anger is so appealing? Because if you're not asking the question, why are you angry? I'm probably mad at the boyfriend, you know, or the dad, or you know, I'm mad. I'm mad because I'm mad at society for when it says Christina wouldn't want to meet her. She hates you, Britney, so you better run for cover. I loved Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera. I was a pop person. I was a cheerleader. I loved that stuff. I never hated Britney Spears or Christina Aguilera. Yeah. I hated that society told me that if I didn't look like them, that I was not worth anything and I was not valuable. So I hated.
And you know, you were very tall at a young age. I've always been overweight, and it's like, I think I had a struggle of like, okay, like I love Britney Spears, I love the Spice Girls, but can I like be like that? And part of why I think I felt at home with bands like Good Charlotte is like, doesn't really matter if what your body looks like. But it is a weird kind of it's like juxtaposition is not the word of like, can I hate this, but like I like it, and like I hate some of maybe what it's telling me I should be.
Right.
But
yeah, and it's like, you know, I'm really pissed off at society for putting these standards on me, and like he's encouraging it. Like that's
she's hot, yeah,
and it's encouraging. Like, she hates you, Britney, so you better run for cover. It's like, you know, I think a lot of men in general, and the patriarchy in general, has encouraged women to hate each other, to pin each other against each other. Why would I hate Britney or Christina? Because they look different from me. Like, I'm angry because that's the standard, and you're like kind of reinforcing it and encouraging it in that way.
Yeah.
So I think that I ask myself, what about, besides the aesthetics of tattoos and piercings and the punk look, because that's been my look for most of my life. I like that look. It's an aesthetically pleasing look. But aside from that, why is just an angry, pissed off hood rat who needs an attitude adjustment, what is appealing about that? You know, like, I have to ask what that says about you as a person. Why are you so attracted? What about that why is that being fetishized almost?
Right. And there's, you know, maybe attitude adjustment is like, this woman does not like authority and she's not going to take anybody's shit. And some people interpret that as needs an attitude adjustment. But why is it she needs an attitude adjustment and not, this woman is confident and stands up for herself? And I think that's so admirable. Like, that's such a great quality she has, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, there's, you know, different things that come into consideration with writing a song, like rhymes and all that. But why is it she's angry and not what she's angry at? Yeah.
Yeah, and that was it's a really mirrored reflection of what was happening in my home life.
Okay.
I was like a young teen who was very angry and trying to be very outspoken about the things that I was seeing in my home life and in my personal life that wasn't good. Instead of someone being like, oh, she's in this really not great situation or she has reasons to be angry, I was pinned down as she's angry,
yeah.
she's disrespectful, she doesn't like authority, she's disobedient, she doesn't listen. When in reality, now
You
as an adult, I can look back, none of the adults were acting like adults. They were all acting like idiots. I was the one that was, speaking the truth. And so I think for me, like this, it sort of encapsulates that, where it's like, why aren't we digging deeper past the aesthetics of an angry riot girl and asking those questions of why? Why, anger is this weird emotion that, like, I feel like females aren't allowed to express or aren't really taught how.
No,
and
they're not. And it's like, men will say that women are too emotional, but men often show anger more than women actually show it, because women either feel they aren't allowed to show it or they don't know how to express it. And then men show anger, but that's not emotion, that's rational. And it's like, no, that's an emotion too. Doesn't mean it's not rational. Like, your feelings, your emotions are valid and rational. Like, but yeah.
Yeah, and I also think it speaks to, and something that has happened to me in my own life, where a lot of the times when we meet someone, we live in limerence with them.
Yeah.
Where we project these fantasies on them, where we really want this person to be this fantasy, this
That's
perfect
like
puzzle
a great
piece.
word for this song, limerence.
Yeah, limerence, that she, the Riot Girl, fits perfectly into his life, that she's angry, so he gets to be angry about his stuff and he doesn't have to deal with it because he can focus on her anger.
Right.
And we live in this limerence where
they
in
can
reality
both be angry together.
They can both be angry together, and and it's like, when he says she gets us thrown out constantly, but that's okay. Like, well, where are you at? Like, if you're her boyfriend, like, why aren't you like calming her down, or like just holding space
or
for that anger,
her
or defending her, and things like that. So I feel like
if a guy, if I were somewhere and I were to get thrown out and I was with a guy and he didn't defend me, I would be like, okay, sayonara. Like,
right. And how are you going to call her a riot girl and then be like, emergency, call 911? How are you going to call her a riot girl and then call the popo on her? That makes makes no sense to me.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the Riot Grrrl movement.
Yeah.
So Riot Grrrl as a movement, Riot, Grrrl, started in the 1990s, and I was reading about it. It seems like both the Pacific Northwest and also maybe Washington, D.C., were kind of some of the origins of this. And Riot Grrrl was about girls being angry, speaking their minds, celebrating their sexuality, and taking a stand and creating a space for themselves. There was an NME article, which I will link in the show notes. It was a great article, A Brief History of Riot Grrrl. Punk rock was, and still is, although I think in recent years that's been changing more and more, but punk rock was and still largely is a genre dominated by white men. And in the early 90s, in Olympia, Washington, feminist activists started forming bands and making zines. Bikini Kill, one of the founding bands of this movement, Kathleen Hanna of Bikini Kill, wrote a Riot Grrrl manifesto in the second edition of their zine, saying, "Us girls crave records and books and fanzines that speak to us, that we feel included in and can understand in our own ways." It reads, "We are angry at a society that tells us girl equals dumb, girl equals bad, girl equals weak." I mean, women's only spaces at festivals. Kathleen Hanna would shout, she'd be on stage and shout "girls to the front," asking girls to come to the front of the crowd. And that's like a tagline that is used to this day. Girls to the front, or To the Front is like an art show series, I think, in Los Angeles. There's so much to the Riot Grrrl movement. This article gives a pretty good overview, and then also mentions that there's a lot of bands even nowadays, such as Milk Teeth, who, by the way, opened for Good Charlotte in the UK in 2017, and Spook School, who insist on venues changing all toilets to gender neutral. Speedy Ortiz introducing a gig helpline that fans can call if they feel unsafe at a show, which I think is amazing. Couple bands in this movement to mention. I mean, obviously Bikini Kill, Bratmobile, Babes in Toyland, 7 Year Bitch, Calamity Jane, Excuse 17, Heavens to Betsy, and then worth mentioning that Sleater Kinney was formed by Corinne Tucker of Heavens to Betsy and Carrie Brownstein of Excuse 17. So Riot Grrrl really, in summary, was a movement for women to make space for themselves in, you know, a scene that in some level was about like social movement and change and being progressive, but didn't always have a space for people who weren't white men. So it's about women making a space for themselves. And I think I would guess if you were to ask anyone nowadays, who feels like they're really like in the grid of this movement, I would guess that anyone nowadays would say it's not just women, it's non-men, anyone who identifies not as male. So here's my question for you, Jessie. Do you think Good Charlotte's Riot Grrrl, is this a good representation of the Riot Grrrl movement? And is it like, I mean, is it celebrating the girls who were part of that movement? Like, is this a Riot Grrrl song written by a white man in 2002? Like, how do you think this fits into that?
I agree more with what you said. He was 23 years old when they wrote this. And does a 23-year-old guy, is he qualified to speak on what the Riot Grrrl movement about, which is girls speaking up for themselves? So do I think it's a good representation of the Riot Grrrl movement? No. Do I think it's a good representation of some of the reasons why the Riot Grrrl movement happened in the first place? Yeah.
Right, the anger, women's anger.
Yeah, the women's anger, and not only that, but this idea of society setting us up for only wanting, girls thinking that romantic relationships are, the ultimate be all. I was a Disney kid, get your Disney, prince, fall in love, get married, all that stuff, and it's like it's a projection of what he wants and what he wants to be.
Quick interjection, like, it's not even just Disney. Like, I was just thinking about this, like, Legally Blonde. Like, I love Legally Blonde, amazing movie. And it's like the whole movie is about Elle, after her relationship ends, becoming this like badass lawyer, getting into Harvard Law and like totally kicking butt, standing up to the sexist creepy professor.
Yeah.
And then, solving a case that nobody else knew because she was this like super feminine woman, not in spite of it, because of it. And then at the end, when she's delivering the commencement speech, like it says on the bottom that like, she had started dating this guy and he's going to propose tonight. And it's like,
yeah, I agree with that. Why
can't her happy ending just be she went to Harvard Law and was like, valedictorian or whatever? I
completely agree with you, because in the same spirit, two movies that I love for those sort of similar reasons, Ever After and My Big Fat Greek Wedding, which are two movies that are the same, where it's like these, awkward, ugly ducking women who kind of grow up to come into their femininity. But both of those movies end, she got married and moved into the house with the Greek wedding. And then in Ever After, she ended up with the prince.
Yeah.
With a guy. So it's like, I think a big part of the Riot Grrrl movement is creating a space where we don't have to be attached to, men in that way. Not to say I don't like relationships or I don't believe in relationships, but to be so centered around them to where my only identity was encapsulated by who I could be for other people. who I could be for a guy or a person I was dating. And I think this is a good representation of what it looked like to sort of be someone's fantasy and not live in the reality of the actual relationship where it was two pissed off kids trying to figure out how to be together.
Yeah. Well, and this is not even, you don't have children, do you?
Mm-mm.
I mean, when women become mothers, oftentimes they are by society defined as being a mother before anything else. And you know, if that's your identity, I mean, oh my God, like literally, like I don't want kids, but like having children is like, it's like extremely natural to like desire biological children. That's like extremely natural. Like we are biologically driven to do that. And so it makes sense that that's like a large part of your identity, right? But oftentimes, like, that's just how society defines women who are mothers, is that they're a mother. They're not a woman. They're a mother. Meanwhile, men are, you know, a man who has children. And I don't know. This is a little bit of a sidetrack, but
I think a more powerful Riot Girl song written in the spirit that would have been, I have this angry girlfriend and I asked her what she was angry about and this is what she's angry about.
And now I'm angry about this too.
And now I'm angry about this too. Not look at this girl with tattoos and piercings throwing temper tantrums and getting kicked out of restaurants. It's, you know.
And there's also like, you know, he mentioned Minor Threat and Social Distortion, which are not female bands.
No, not at all.
So like, where do you go off calling the song Riot Girl in that sense, you know? Like it would be one thing if he was saying, oh yeah, she loves Bikini Kill, like she idolizes Kathleen Hanna, like, but that's not even what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Another question I want to pose is like, what is the view of women in general that's being shared in the song? Like, not just the specific Riot Girl he's talking about, but like, and I kind of have a hunch what you're going to say, but not just the specific Riot Girl he's singing about, but like this view of women as a whole. Like, what do you think it is?
I think it does a really good job of separating women into two separate camps of being Riot Girls or Britneys. That we have to be either or. That we can't.
Yeah, you're a punk or a prep.
Yeah, you, and that's something that I struggle with, because at that same time, I was a cheerleader from like 3rd grade until 8th grade. I had blonde hair, a very peppy, bubbly personality. So I felt like, because I was angry and I felt like I couldn't be both. I couldn't be happy and peppy and also be angry about stuff.
But what's funny is like, and I was a cheerleader for a hot minute too. I had knee injuries, so it didn't last long. But like, what's funny is like, especially through doing this podcast, I've connected with a handful of people who have like the similar story of like, yeah, I was not like, you know, I didn't necessarily always dress like emo or whatever, or I was a cheerleader and I kind of like also love Good Charlotte. I didn't know how to fit. And like, it's a thing, but I think
society tries to put us in boxes.
Yeah. I have two things that come to mind when I think of this question. Number one is that, you know, he's kind of saying, well, this girl, my girl, is special because she is not like the other girls. So she's just kind of furthering that putting women in boxes thing. Like, my girl is special because she's not like other girls. And on a larger scale, I think I get a women's value is what they provide to me, their attraction to me, and what I can kind of fetishize about them in a sense.
Yes. I completely agree with you on that. And it's saying that like she's special, not like other girls. It's like why are we constantly comparing women? Why are we constantly comparing ourselves to each other and ripping ourselves to shreds?
Well, we're comparing ourselves to each other because the media was comparing us, you know?
Oh yeah. It was not fun being a female in the early 90s,
Oh my
like
God.
early 2000s with like the Jenny Craig and like the, all that stuff, and weight loss was like really
I
in.
read
Oh man, I still to this day struggle with eating disorder and body
hard,
dysmorphia and
yeah.
all that stuff. So yeah, and to go back to what you're saying, the view of women in general, I think it even in that song, a place where a band that I found resonance in home, I still was like, oh, here's society telling me that I have to be either the Riot Girl that
Or
hates
the
Britney,
Christina, the Britney,
or
yeah.
be Britney, but I don't really look like Britney. But I like the vibe of that. I like being peppy. I love the music. I love, even some of the style, but like I couldn't be both.
Right.
And again, I found myself where it was like, well, I don't fit in anywhere. Like I have to
Right.
be something. I can't be myself. I have to be this thing to fit in, to be wanted and accepted, because self-acceptance and validation and worth was not something that was taught to me. It wasn't what's the word I'm looking for? It wasn't nourished. It wasn't gardened. It wasn't taught to me
It
in that
wasn't,
way.
it certainly wasn't taught to me. And I think it's like a lot of people don't just have that naturally, right? And it's like, and that's not like anyone's fault, because it's just like a lot of parents don't know that they need to teach that,
I think every human is born with love, knowing how freaking creative they are. I believe every human on this planet is creative, and I believe every human on this planet is filled with love. And I think society and our parents who are carrying their traumas from their childhood and all of these other things, conditioning from education and our friends and our peers and all this stuff, I think because it's like we get to a point in our lives, or at least this is what I experienced, where I had to either choose be myself or be accepted by the people around me.
Oh my God.
And a child coming from a home of survival, I'm gonna freaking survive. I need love.
Totally.
So screw my identity. I'm gonna be whatever they need me to be, because I need love more than I need my identity.
My home was, obviously I fought with my parents a ton growing up, but like everyone does, right? Like, never felt like unsafe at home or anything. Like I see my parents all the time. I love my parents. Great relationship with them. But coming into school, especially as a teenager, like I got made fun of for listening to Good Charlotte a lot. And it was so weird because it was like, I loved GC because they helped me, they related to these like feelings I have of like, being an outcast. But then advertising that, like wearing a Good Charlotte shirt, like I'd get made fun of. And there was like a period where I would not wear my Good Charlotte shirts to school. Like if people asked what my favorite band was, I would say something else. Like, and so there's definitely like do I fit in? And to be honest, Good Charlotte gets into a lot of that, especially like Generation RX. To me, that's a lot of like, do I be myself? Do I kind of just like do what I can to kind of like fit in and all? Yeah, it's like kind of like a lifelong quest, I think. And there's no answer, because it's very easy to say, oh, well, just be yourself. But like, number one, a lot of people don't even know what their self is, what their identity is. And number two, sometimes there are things where like, yeah, no, it actually is like more beneficial to not, for survival of any sort.
Yeah, I've tried to put myself in a box for a long time, and that's never, ever worked for me.
No.
I've never been able to put myself in a box. In fact, the harder I try to stuff myself in a box, the more discombobulated I become as a human. I operate much better as a free-flowing, fluid human in that way.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I love that. I am curious, Jessie, if there are any songs by any other artists that come to mind to you when you listen to this. I have a few written down here, but I was curious if there was any others that come to mind for you.
I agree with the songs that you said, so we can talk about those. I will say that it did remind me, in the same spirit of guys talking about girls and their perspective, Boy Crazy by Newfound Glory popped into my head.
Okay.
This sort of like commentary about you know, a girl's perspective, maybe speaking on things that they don't quite understand. Where I love that, you know, as a kid, but now as an adult, I listen to it and I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about. And you didn't have any idea what you were talking about back then. And I can't believe I bought into that. That just shows you how much self-awareness I lacked in that way. But it did, and I will bring up the one you said, because I agree with you that Machine Gun Kelly's Emo Girl, it's the same spirit. It's a copy paste of Riot Grrrl. I mean, different lyrics, different, you know, culture, because it's, you know, 20 years in the future, but it's the same song.
It's literally the same song. Yeah. The other two that I had here were My Alien by Simple Plan and Josie by Blink-182, which are also pop punk bands that wrote songs about their fantasy girl. But one like a difference that I want to mention here is like both Simple Plan and Blink-182 were writing about girls who obviously didn't exist. Like Simple Plan saying, my alien, she has 2 arms to hold me, 4 legs to wrap around me, right? Blink-182, I mean, Josie sounds like the name of a woman, but it was like their friends, I don't know, it was either a cat or a dog. So these were women who obviously didn't exist. But, you know, this Riot Girl, for all us listening, us, you know, 12-year-olds, whatever, she might as well have existed, like, as far as we know.
Sure. Yeah, My Alien, I still am a big Simple Plan fan. I think they're so great. And My Alien is a really good song too. That album got me through many summers of washing dishes at my mom's house. Like, I want to get out of this house. It's terrible. But My Alien, it's like, you know, and it's specifically it's the possessive pronouns that perk me. It's my alien, my baby. It's, you know,
that's a good point.
Yeah, it's not talking about like, look, there's
this girl that I admire for her own sake.
There's a huge difference in admiring something for its beauty and consuming it because you are hungry.
Admiring someone for who they are and
as opposed to
fetishizing what they can do for you.
Exactly. Consuming and fetishizing someone for what you need and the story you're telling yourself in your head.
Right. And
that's two different energies.
In Josie, you know, she brings me Mexican food from Sombrero just because.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What do you do for her?
Do you bring her Mexican food from Sombrero just because? Is she the most thoughtful girl ever? Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, in terms of backstory for this song, I didn't really find any interviews talking about it. There's not a whole lot of interviews online from that time because 2002 is kind of before the blog era. But worth mentioning is that this is a song that Good Charlotte has changed their opinions on. And Joel, when they perform it, Joel will give a speech. And I wrote down, I'm probably going to paraphrase this, but I cited a video from March 2018 at River Stage in Brisbane, Australia. And he's saying that it's really important for me to clear this up because when we say there's a lot of girls here, this is for the girls, this one's for the girls, you know, I don't mean that in like a cute, thank you for coming to the show, girls. He says that he has a daughter, she's grown up in this world, and I want her to stand up for herself. I want her to express herself. I want her to speak her mind. I want her to say, fuck sexism, fuck racism, fuck discrimination. I'd be excited if she said that, actually. Even if she used the F word, I would be okay with it, because the times are changing. So when I say this song is for the girls, I mean I'm singing it for the girls we need here at the show. The song Riot Girl, I didn't even know what I was writing about back then, but now I know what I was writing about. I'm writing this for my daughter. I'm writing this for every girl in the world. So I say we sing this song with the girls, for the girls. So I think that, like, kind of saying that he's even seen, like, in a way how, like, emotionally mature in some senses this song is. There's another quote.
That's a great way of saying it. It is a very emotionally immature song.
Yeah.
That's a great way of saying it. Not bad in any, like, not in a moral way, but just it's just an emotionally immature song.
Yeah. Another quote I'll read from 2016. They played a release show for Youth Authority the day it released at the iHeart theater in New York, and Joel said that he actually used to hate this song, but now he loves it. I learned who I really am. I'm not afraid to express myself anymore. I write songs like Riot Girl because I used to be obsessed with Riot Girls. I called them Riot Girls. That was what I called them. And I was very inspired by them, so I wrote a song about them. And I don't hate this song anymore. I love this song now. I think, you know, it takes a lot of guts to, like, out and out directly say, yeah, no, that song was emotionally immature. I was trying, like, I admire these women. I didn't know the way to kind of put that. And I didn't even have it in me to fully sort out my own feelings about that. I think that's kind of what he's getting at.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you know, it's like he says,
I think I'm still confused about what Riot Girl means to him.
I am a little too. Yeah.
I think I would, it'd be one of those situations where I would love to hear someone directly ask him that question and sort of hear that response. Cause
the politically correct, like media trained response.
Yeah. Cause it's like when he said, I used to be obsessed with Riot Girls. Like, in what way? In a way that you were like,
you liked girls with tattoos?
Yeah.
Or you liked girls that spoke their mind and stood up for something?
Yeah, because I mean, we all have hormones and we're all human. We all get, you know, girl and boy crazy and have crushes, and you know, that's
and types. You know, we all have types. Yeah,
absolutely.
But neither Benji or Joel married women who are
right. Dude, right. I read that comment. Yeah,
I don't know. You know, look, I don't know Cameron Diaz. I don't know Nicole Richie. And for all I know, those are also badass women that stand up for themselves, that speak for something, that fight against, you know, that fight for change. Right. And for all I know, I have no idea. So I'm like,
because I just don't think that saying the F word is like constitutes being a riot girl. Like,
no,
you know, it's not. That's not something where it's like. It sort of leans into the emotional immaturity of the song, where it's like she gets on tables and gets kicked out and this stuff. It's like that may be how she's reacting and processing her anger in the moment, but that's not why she's a riot girl. You know, she's a riot girl because she sees the world, she sees how she fits into it, and she doesn't make sense of it, and she wants to understand it. When she tries to understand it, the society tells her, no, shut up, sit down, and be a pretty little skinny white girl.
And she says, no.
And she says, no, I don't want to do that. And then instead of, and it's almost like that gaslighting where it's like, instead of focusing on what she's angry about, people pay attention to how she's reacting to her anger.
Yeah.
It's not about the F word. It's about why she's saying the F word to begin with. Why is she saying F you? She's probably saying F you because people keep putting her in boxes and trying to compare her to other women and make us hate each other.
Yeah. I think, like, in his kind of what he's saying it's about now, or at least in 2018, you know, it's like, okay, this is because we want girls on our show that are gonna speak their mind and stand up for themselves and fight against, you know, all sorts of bigotry. He's not really being super direct about that.
Right.
I think that's what he's getting at.
I think in general, I think I would love to see less cheerleaders for women and more accountability. I would much rather see Joel on stage, or any band member for that matter, male band member on stage, speaking to the men in the crowd and how they are acting and behaving and how they should treat women, more than I need to hear like, go right, girls. Like, I don't need that. I need you to say, hey, when you know, sexually assault, that's not okay. Like, I need you to hold the men accountable.
Right. Instead of like, hey girls, here's how you don't get raped. It's hey men.
Hey men, don't rape. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's okay. So let's go into my next question. Is like, I kind of want to talk about being and we can sort of dive into this, but being a female music fan in general, being a female like pop punk, emo, alternative fan, and specifically as being a female Good Charlotte fan. Lots of female fans at most concerts, certainly at any like pop punk or emo or alternative show I've been to. Good Charlotte, especially as a female dominated fan base, as a somewhat representative sample, per Spotify listeners for Generation GC, which for what it's worth, Spotify only represents like 26% of my overall listeners of the show. But 48% female, 42% male, 10% non-binary. However, when I have gone in and looked by episode, like analytics by episode, it's as high as 75% female. And that sometimes honestly varies on the guest and the song. And it's just, you know, I haven't, like, all sorts of things can affect that. But, you know, do female fans feel welcome? I mean, you know, you brought up a great point. Like, why are we not holding men more accountable? You know, okay, what is it? Speedy Ortiz has a helpline for fans to call if they feel unsafe. Great. Like, we do need that. But what are you doing to the aggressors or the perpetrators that make people feel unsafe? And whether that's physically unsafe, as in assaulting someone, or just kind of emotionally unsafe, like making fun of someone for being a girl or whatever and saying they don't belong here.
This is something that I think about probably 11 times a day. The idea of separating the art from the artist, and how do you hold how much of the human do you hold accountable and separate from the art itself, and where that line is. And I believe that line has become so confusing for all of us because of social media, because we have so much direct connection to other people. Where when I was 13 listening to Good Charlotte, like, I would see them on like Steven's Untitled Rock Show or TRL randomly, and like, you know, we didn't get like updated Twitters and TikTok accounts, like, and personal kind of tunnels into their lives. So I think as fans in general, I think people just expect more. There's just a different kind of relationship between fan and artist, because the personal boundaries of our lives are so blurry because there's so much connection on social media, and you can see that. So I don't, this is something I think about all the time, and I don't know how to do that, because I've been a part of the alternative music scene since I was that age. I've grown up going to shows. I've been to hundreds, if not thousands of shows in my lifetime of punk, alternative, hardcore. I've loved Stick to Your Guns since I was 17. I've been going to hardcore. I was wearing that. So when you ask me what's it like being a female fan, I'll be really honest in that I've only started to explore my femininity in general over the last few years. So I never really considered myself a female music fan, because I didn't identify with my femininity at all. I was that girl who was wearing like basketball shorts at the like As I Lay Dying show.
Which there's
like,
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, like, absolutely.
And that doesn't make you less of a woman.
Right.
Unless you don't want to feel like a woman.
I agree with you now, but then I did not. I thought it made me less, because I was so tall and weird, and and now I see it that I had sort of a masculine exterior because I was trying to protect myself because of what I'd grown up in. I think it's just as safe to be a female music fan as it is to be a female these days.
Sure. Yeah.
Which is not that safe.
No.
You know, and how do we create these safe spaces? How do we have conversations? How do we hold people accountable?
Yeah.
I'll tell you how we don't do it, and that's cancel culture. I don't agree with that at all. I think wiping someone clean because of a statement or a specific situation, I think, isn't how we do. That creates more shame and judgment. And so I don't think that there is like a one sentence answer to questions like this. I think answers to these conversations are long and nuanced, and a lot of different people involved, because you have to ask, how do you make these individuals feel safe?
Yeah.
Have I always felt safe at shows? Yes. I don't have a whole lot of memories of not. I've always felt that being at shows have been the safest space I've ever been in, being in that community of people and music. But that's not really saying much if you knew what my childhood was like.
Sure.
So I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah.
And
it's I think it's challenging. And
it is really challenging.
I've never had an experience where I've been like assaulted at a show. But I definitely had some like unwanted conversations from men at shows.
Oh,
and
100%.
it was kind of like, it's always kind of like, how do you respond? Like what is like actually going to be effective to get this guy to leave me the hell alone? You know?
And when I say I haven't been, I say that like I haven't, as much as I have been a woman in general, I've been like gawked at, my ass grabbed, catcalled since I was like 8 years old. I've never felt safe in that way. So how do we, you know, when I'm at a show and like I've gotten my ass full on grabbed by a guy before, like how do we hold men accountable in those spaces? But how do we hold men accountable in those spaces in general? Yeah. You know, it's not really just the music scene. Why? Because I think because music is such a safe space individually for people, we expect it to be a safe space as a community without putting the work in to make it a safe space for a community, you know?
Yeah, and it's almost like, oh, well, it's a safe space for everyone. So I almost wonder if there's like a collective, well, we don't want to call anyone out because...
Right. And it seems kind of weird to me. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, and I was going to say... a thought on what you said about cancel culture, and then I have a story I want to share, not about cancel culture, but just about feeling safe at shows. Like, you know, I think there's absolutely something to be said of like, okay, no, this person has done awful things that have harmed other people. They don't have a space in music. I agree with that. But number one, in some cases, yeah, there should be room for rehabilitation, I guess is the word. But also so much of like effective cancel culture is like, did this go viral on Twitter at the right time?
Sure. Yeah.
You know, so it's like, and it's not even, was this what this person did objectively that bad that they really should not have a career in a place where they have power and influence over, especially a lot of young women often.
Absolutely.
Or did it just go viral on Twitter? And, you know, like I think about, it's like a little different angle, but I'm like, I feel like the story is like kind of relevant to what we're saying about feeling safe at shows. When I was in college, I interned at a venue, and it's been in fall 2011. We had a tour come through. It was stacked. It was, I don't want to say the bands just because I don't want to like make people mad, and I don't want to like share that detail. But it was like a really good tour lineup, and I was so excited. This is like a small venue, and it's like the stage is low, like it's like, you know, at or below my knees, and I am like right in front. And a couple times I got pushed on the stage, and I kind of stood there for a few seconds because I was like, okay, do I jump off? Is there room? Like, what do I do? It's not really high enough to crowd surf, nor did I really want to crowd surf. I just wanted to get off the stage, and, you know, and then like, and I got hit in the head, I got pushed around, and I was having a good time, but I was definitely like not engaging in the moshing. Like I wasn't in front because I wanted to mosh or crowd surf or get hit in the head. I was in front because I wanted to sing along and have fun. And one time when I was up there, someone yelled, "Get off the stage, that B." And couple songs later, like the band was saying something that like, you shouldn't be in front if you can't handle the crowd and stuff like that. And like, it's just like, the band didn't say anything about, you know, women. But it was like, this is a small show. Like it was pretty clearly directed at me, and it was just like why do I have to engage in that in order to like have a space at the show? It's just like, there's like, I don't know. We could talk for hours just about like accountability.
Right. And
shows.
Also I'm sorry that was your experience.
Thank you.
I hope that you have better ones. I think that especially now as a 33-year-old, I'll be 34 in October, as a almost 34-year-old kind of adult, whatever that word means to you, I think that it's really strange to assume that a place like a pop punk / alternative / emo show space, I think it's weird to assume that space would be safe to begin with, just inherently, because and you said, you asked specifically a female pop punk / emo fan. Most people, and not all, and I can speak from experience because I've been an emo, sceeny weeny, pop punky person for 20 years. Most people find resonance with that kind of music because of some sort of pain or stress or trouble.
Oh, and then you get all those people
so
together.
If you put all those people who have been hurt, abused, have old wounds, triggers, mental illness, active pain that they're experiencing, active trauma and abuse they're experiencing in their home life, and you put all those people in the same room, and then you get all those people emotional and connected to their pain with music,
totally.
It's really hard for me not to expect that their behaviors, bad and good, would come out in that space because we're all together, So it's, for me, it's less about like pointing the blame of like that person did something wrong or she did, he did. It's like, well, how can we like step a couple steps back and look at it as a whole like that? Okay, so if we're putting a group of young people in a room together to create community and expression and for the love of music, how can we create safe spaces knowing that everybody under that building ain't got their shit together? So there has to be room for grace.
Absolutely.
And with cancel culture, there is no room for grace. So how can we navigate those conversations and those spaces with the awareness that most people have a lot of baggage that they're working through, and society and the way our world is set up does not have the ability to facilitate healing and growth in that way. We don't have the vocabulary. We don't have the resources that are just, we have to go look for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's a great point. Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot.
We could talk so much. That's why I got excited when I read over this. I was like, man, we're going to go over an hour and a half. Crap.
Do you have any like memories or stories specifically about the song Riot Girl that you want to share?
Not really, because like I said, this song this isn't one that I repeated over and over again when I listened to it when I was a kid. And as far as me being a good Charlotte fan, I found The Young and the Hopeless, went back an album to the one previous to that, really loved that, and then didn't really listen to them for the next 3 albums, and then kind of got back on the track with Youth Authority because it sounded so much like their older stuff. And not because I didn't like Good Charlotte, but because there was just so much other music. Because after The Young and the Hopeless, at that time was like the pinnacle of like the emo scene. Mm-hmm. So like Paramore was just coming out, and once I found Paramore, there was just nothing else musically for me that could touch that. So I think it wasn't that I didn't like Good Charlotte, it was just the music that they were putting out then just wasn't something I listened to a lot. So Good Charlotte or Riot Grrrl itself, no. Other than this wonderful conversation we've been having about it, this is probably the most pivotal thing about Riot Grrrl in my memory is this conversation with you.
I want to, I always like to touch on like what other Good Charlotte songs a track relates to or might share common threads with, and like with the modern day context, and I will explain this a little bit. For me, I think of Harlow's song because very clearly having a daughter changed everything for Joel. Mm-hmm. And a little part of me is like, oh my God, like why did you need to have a daughter in order to change your opinion? But it's like, I also don't fault him for that because he lives in a society that, tells him that things should be a certain way.
Right.
And that happens to a lot of men, frankly. Yeah. They have a daughter and it's like, oh. But I think about that because it's like, he says, can't dream without you. Like this small little child is so important to him and is changing everything for him, and now is changing his views on what this song really means, especially as his child grows up.
Yes, absolutely. Do I have any songs that it relates to? If I'm being almost all of them, like the first song that popped up, because they touched on so much of what I was angry about and they sang about that stuff. The first song that popped up to my head was Hey Dad, that song.
Right, Emotionless, yeah.
Yeah, and so you know, Young and Hopeless, I'm Moving On, The Day That I Die, all of these songs tie back into Riot Grrrl because those were the reasons why he's saying more about why I was mad in those other songs than
and then in Riot Grrrl,
and
it's
then
like,
Riot Grrrl,
hey,
it
this
was
is
like,
a girl who's angry and like she's
right,
also pretty cool. Yeah.
and you know, I think she's hot and she has piercings and she's angry and I'm, you know, I love her for those reasons, but he was more emotionally connected to the why when he was speaking about his own experiences.
Yeah.
So I think it all connects in that way.
Yeah, definitely. I did want to mention that there was an acoustic version of this song included on the CD single for the anthem. I want to dive into just some critic responses of this song.
These were great, by the way. I read them
Thank
all
you.
and I laughed.
There were some good
There were
ones.
so many good ones.
Rock Sound did mention this song in their Hidden Gems article. Play Loud gave the album a 3.5, I guess, out of 5. And I'm going to read this whole paragraph, even though the whole paragraph isn't necessarily about Riot Grrrl. It's just, I really like this. Sometimes they get a bit more punk rock on our asses. Riot Grrrl is like Rancid after a bath. Tongue-in-cheek lifestyle words, a song that kids in every small town scene across the West can relate to, and stuck with a kind of growing up rites of passage small town American lyrics that it seems the whole world of teen moshers can relate to. The Young and the Hopeless is a simple and direct work, goofy and fun. Good Charlotte are occupying that confused hinterland between Green Day and Avril Lavigne. Fortunately for them, they're immersed enough in punk rock culture to deal out the pop with enough edge to mark them closer to Green Day. If you want a new direction for punk, then wait for the new AFI album in March. In the meantime, Good Charlotte will take their place in the Million Sellers Club. I like Rancid after a bath, and I think Good Charlotte in 2002 probably would have been like, no, what do you mean? But I think now they would probably read that and be self-aware enough to be like, yeah, sounds about right.
Mm-hmm.
Adrian B. Grand reviewed this for Pop Matters. We have talked about his reviews of this album and a couple other GC albums many times, although it's been a little bit, and I am so happy. Riot Grrrl is a failed attempt at blatantly ripping off the Dead Milkmen's Punk Rock Girl, where the band also takes some shots toward Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera. Hate to burst your bubble, boys, but Canadian girl band Live on Release slagged Britney and Christina with much better results 2 years ago. Give it up.
First off, I just want to say people need to leave Britney the hell alone.
Oh my god.
Leave her alone.
I think,
good Lord.
If Good Charlotte were to, in 2022, write a song about their fantasy punk rock girl, they would not mention Britney.
Yeah, I don't think
To be fair, I don't really think anyone would mention Britney. No. They'd mention Taylor Swift is who they would mention if anyone was. It would be, if they were writing this now, it would be like Taylor Swift. I don't know, maybe
is Taylor Swift this generation's Britney Spears, what Britney Spears was to us 20 years ago? Is that what that is?
I think in some ways. Yeah. Catherine Black wrote a 15-year anniversary piece for this album for Punktastic, and she said, we sang Riot Grrrl when we were lacking self-confidence, which I like, and I think that, that gets at where, at least where I think I was, and where I honestly sometimes still am when I listen to this song, is like, brings confidence, because it's like, you know what, yeah, she has tattoos, she's piercings, she's kind of like angry and pissed off at everyone, but like, she's hot, she's pretty cool. I like that.
I have a lot of memories of singing this song with like girlfriends, like in the car, like with Emily or another friend who really loved Good Charlotte. I have a lot of like singing it with my girlfriends and us like being like, yeah, we're so different and alternative.
Right.
And cool. Right. Yeah, absolutely.
NME has a fun quiz. Does rock and roll kill brain cells? And this one was with Brian Baker of Bad Religion and Minor Threat, which is perfect,
Mm-hmm.
That guy from Minor Threat. And they ask him, which band once sang, she's got tattoos and piercings, she likes Minor Threat, she likes Social Distortion? Brian Baker says, it's gotta be No Effects. Wrong. It's Good Charlotte on Riot Grrrl, a track from their 2002 album, The Young and the Hopeless. Really? Well, the thing is, I'm not as familiar with Good Charlotte's catalog. I thought that was great.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a review, but this is a quote from a book called Anyone Can Do It, Empowerment Tradition in the Punk Underground by Pete Dale. And he's talking about Riot Grrrl. He goes on to repeatedly refer to the Riot Grrrl as my girl and my baby who would do anything for me. Her rage is inarticulate and universal. She's pissed off at everyone, rather than being focused on the definite targets which groups such as Bikini Kill directed themselves towards, and so on. Good Charlotte, Riot Grrrl, Young the Hopeless, Epic. Epic is also a major label, of course, which the Riot Grrrls would certainly have disapproved of.
I really liked this quote when I read over it, specifically when her rage is inarticulate and universal.
Yeah.
She's pissed off at everyone, because that's so true. It's like, why?
I hadn't really thought about that before this quote and like our conversation.
Right. Like, why is she pissed off? And I'll like, rage is not universal. Rage is a response to something. So it's, you know,
and it may be expressed universally.
Right, exactly. And for me, like, my mom would have said the same thing about me. She's
Right.
still to this day is like, you were angry at your own breath then. And I even now look back, I was not angry at everything or everyone. I loved a lot of people. My art teacher, people that were really kind to me, but the people I was pissed off at.
Oh my God, my art teacher, like, I would not have gotten high school through high school without my art teacher.
Miss Wingler, if you ever listen to this podcast, you are my hero and I love you.
Yeah,
you were
Mr.
my high school art
Torsen.
teacher. Yes, let's shout out to art teachers everywhere.
Mr. Torsen, you meant everything to me. I would not have gotten through high school without you. I had a panic attack in another class once, and the teacher, I guess, told my art teacher, because, you know, I was close to the art teacher, and he like checked on me and made sure I was okay. Like, could not have gotten through without him. Right.
And same with my art teacher, Miss Wingler. Rolling up into her art class, she never treated me like an angry, pissed off young girl. She treated me like a kind, gentle artist and that's how I responded to her.
Mm-hmm.
I respond to who I'm around. So saying, you know, it's, again, that's, you know, she's my baby and, you know, her rage is universal and that kind of stuff. It's like, but why? Why is she angry?
Exactly.
You know? Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I want to read some YouTube comments about this song. These are from a fan upload by Phenomenal426. Fresh Water says, jammed out to this in middle school, and now that I'm 30, all I can think is, damn, this girl sounds exhausting.
You sound exhausting, Fresh Water. Fresh_water.
Do you like see this eyebrow raise? Like, I'm sorry. Jaw JX said, I wonder why they never play this live. It's so great.
It is a fun song live. Emily and I had a lot of fun.
They play this live all the time.
Yeah, they played it at Slam Dunk. That was a part of their set list at Slam Dunk. And it is a very fun song to sing live. I will say that.
Yeah. Ultimate Simp says, bruh, why couldn't I have had my emo phase in like the 90s, early 2000s? Why now?
Dude, it's resurged. You can have your phase right now. Begin.
This person is probably like 15 now.
Right.
Adam Shaheen says, this was like my least fave song on the CD, but one of my faves 20 years later. It's just so happy. Allie Jones says, such a great song. My BF says this song fits me so well.
Break up with your boyfriend, Allie.
I know. But for all we know, Allie is like 14.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Allie,
like,
ask your boyfriend why. Have a ask him why.
Also, Allie, how old are you?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Violet Deliriums said, well, I consider myself a punk in attitude, minus the need to preserve some sort of underground hipness and the belief that nothing in the mainstream can possibly express punk values, which I assume to be pro-democratic, pro-individual, tolerant, anti-hierarchical, anti-racist, anti-sexist, etc. This song fails the anti-sexist test, in my opinion, because it appropriates a symbol of feminism, the term Riot Girl, and strips it of that value. Anger for anger's sake alone by a hot girl. Yes.
Violette, you perfectly said that, Violette. I completely agree with you about that.
Perfect. I read some comments on song meetings. There were, I guess this song leaked before the album came out, so there was a lot of just like people talking about where could you find the download. Fairly Breakable said, it means nothing really, but it's a cool one. Trigger warning for this next one. Josiah said, I wanted to slit my wrists when this band was on stage, and then again when Newfound Glory, and then again when Simple Plan was on stage. How can these bands be on the same bill as Bad Religion, Lagwagon, No Use for a Name, From Autumn to Ashes, or Belvedere? Okay.
Yeah, that's a heavy comment. I want to hold space for that person if that person is struggling with any sort of self-harm, and I hope that that person can get the help that they need.
Yeah.
However, I do not agree with when people like make fun of, put down other bands just because you don't like them. Like, I think that take is so old. I don't like it. I don't think it's cool. Like, just because again, it's that comparing, putting people in box. Like,
yes.
You can
and this person believes that there are boxes.
Right. Like, I can go from listening to like Slipknot to Taylor Swift to Shania Twain to a Disney soundtrack to cool smooth jazz all in the same breath. Like, music is for everybody. It is that to me is a reflection more of where that person is in their own personal journey than it is. Music opinions are always subjective and personal. They don't mean anything. We can talk about music opinions all we want, but they're always just going to be opinions, and you can't. It's just a take that I don't agree with anymore. Right? I never agreed with, but don't feel scared of saying like, I don't think that's cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Ms. XX Holden XX, which I have to wonder if that's their last name or if it's Holden Caulfield.
Mm-hmm.
I can totally see how GC wrote this song to make it one of those songs that kids try to copy and be like. For example, Sick Bot by Social D. Do you know how many boys wore leather jackets and claimed to have street cred after they heard that song a couple times? Well, it is a cute idea, but this aptly titled Riot Girl isn't specific enough. Therefore, it falls short of what one wants. All in all, I still like GC. I think it's cute. I know. I hate that word too. How they mentioned she likes Minor Threat, she likes Social Distortion. Yeah, total name drop. Despair Factor said, I love GC, but the song really isn't doing it for me. But I can relate on the hate Britney part. Ugh. But you know what? I don't blame this person for saying that, because like, as much as like I always liked some pop music, I absolutely went through a period of a lot of years where I felt like I had to hate, and where honestly it sometimes felt pretty good to hate it because felt like I didn't have a place in that world.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you.
X Chick Vicious X said, I don't really like this song, but I'm a sucker for all their slow songs, so whatever. Crying Lonely Tears said, the music is excellent. The lyrics, no comment. Anti-Fashion said, I really hope this song is a joke. I mean, I love Good Charlotte, but come on, this is just lame. My girl's a hot girl, right? Shallow much? Heh. And then just goes on about, dressing punk, and GC isn't actually punk at all.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimate Loser said this is probably the worst song on the album. The music is pretty catchy, I'll admit, but the lyrics are completely meaningless. GC will soon be the proud inspiration for a trend of Riot Girls. I can hardly wait. And then a trigger warning for this is from Psycho Spicy. This song makes me want to die or kill GC. Either way, anyway, this totally distorts what Riot Grrrl is. Aside from that, a piece of shit pop punk band should not be able to mention legends like Social D and Minor Threat.
When people comment stuff like that, I just have to ask, like, how many original thoughts are they having of their own?
Right.
Like how, like, take a look around your room and look at all of your things and think about who influenced you to get those things. Like, that's how humans operate. We look around our environment, we find what works and what doesn't, and we apply it to ourselves. Like, why is it a bad thing to be inspired by something or an artist or a song or a style? Why is that such a bad thing to try on as many hats as you possibly can?
And you don't have to choose one hat.
And exactly, like, being a human is not like, you try to say, who am I? Who you are is never a stagnant place in time.
Yeah.
You're a constantly evolving and changing human. And I think the reason we struggle with putting ourselves in boxes so much is that because we're always changing, so that it's impossible for us to stay in boxes, but yet we try so hard because that's how we're taught we connect with people. We find our other tribes, we find people we like, but since communication skills and conflict resolution and things like that aren't inherently taught to us, we struggle with connecting, and so we pick each other apart in that way.
Yeah, that's a great point. The last comments I'm going to read are from r/pop punkers on Reddit. I found 2 threads about this song. One was about 3 years ago, and it was basically just lots of people getting nostalgic and saying they love this song and this album. There's another thread posted about 2 months ago, and I'll read a couple of comments. Strelgar said, probably my favorite track by them. It's just so damn singable. Emergency call 911. She's pissed off at everyone. Sayonara LOL said, what a phenomenal album. Weird to me that it gets better as each song goes on. The last 2 songs are incredible.
I agree with that. The last 2 songs on the album are so good.
Odeva Bay said, say what you want about their aesthetic choices. The songwriting on this album is ironclad. We are not going to put any criticism towards Benji's Liberty Spikes or Joel's green hair with the money signs. We're not going to criticize those because those were good. Yes,
they were.
Or Joel's a few years after this, but Joel's all white phase where he wore all white for a few months. Listen, we're not going to criticize that. I dressed as Joel Madden in all white.
You remember the face Benji used to make?
Yes. Oh yeah. I love that.
With my maid hoodie on. You see that? It's a maid hoodie.
Who is that? That's not Jessie Raye. That's Benji Madden.
That's Benji Madden. So it's a photo of me. It's like I was 13 or 14 with a maid hoodie on, making
Incredible.
That awful face that they made. I don't even know.
Snarl, yeah.
That punk's like, I don't care what you think.
Yeah, it's
like
a snarl.
I'm punk rock.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lep It Up said this song's a cringe fest, but incredibly catchy. Such a bop.
I sort of agree with that. The lyrics are cringy, but catchy.
Yeah. Jessie, how has Riot Grrrl held up for you over time?
It has completely fallen apart. It's not that it's held up is not the way I would phrase it. Again, as a teenager, I completely connected to it because it became a part of my identity.
Right.
As an adult, I look at it as a song, as a reflection of what I was trying to figure out as a teenager. So it's not that it's held up or changed. It's just I feel differently about everything. So it's not a song that I listened to a lot then, and it wouldn't be a song I'd listen to a lot now. But yeah, I don't think it's catchy, but again, I would love, since he does have a daughter, I would love to see them write it again, a revised version, and
or
not
just
even
hear like
a
real sit down conversation about this song.
Yeah, I think I would be really, really interested in hearing what they feel about that now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Benji also has a daughter now.
Right.
Yeah. What has Good Charlotte meant to you over the years, and how has that changed?
So, what Good Charlotte meant to me when I was a kid, gosh, they meant everything to me. They were one of my favorite bands. I listened to them all the time. I showed you that photo. I loved their music. Not only did I love their music, but I thought they were really cute. They all look like they came from Forks. You know, most emo boys from that time all look like they belong in Forks, glittering in the sunlight. You know, they all have this like sort of aesthetic look about them that I find to be very attractive. They all look like vampires. And I, then I was, like most teenagers, I was boy crazy, and I thought they were cute, and they had cool style, and I loved their music. So and I know "Hold On" means a lot to a lot of people, and it means as much to me as it means to a lot of other people too. So that band, and specifically that song, it walked me off the edge several times as a teenager. Wow. Several times. I had a suicide attempt when I was 13, and that song really helped me get through a lot of, and again at 30. So it's, depression and things like that have been something that's been pretty prominent and heavy in my life. And they've, like music in general, they've held me when my entire world was crumbling around me. Music holds me safe and tight. And there have been moments in my life where Good Charlotte has been that for me, and I really appreciate that.
Love that. I'm so glad they've been here for you.
Yeah.
Do you have any last words about Riot Grrrl, about Good Charlotte, or about yourself?
I think it's a really interesting thing to think about what Riot Girl means in 2022.
Oh my God, yeah.
What that actually means, what that looks like. I'll say that I'm very, very, very excited about the future, which just seems silly when you look around the world right now because there's so much stress and pain and stuff.
Yeah.
But I see the younger generations having access to so much more knowledge and connection than we did. And I hear their war cries, and God, I hope they're angry. I encourage them to be angry. I don't want to stifle. They should be angry, just like I should have been angry. So I think Riot Grrrl is, an energy and a mindset of wanting to figure out your place in this world without anybody else.
Oh, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Without anyone else telling you where it should be, but also not being afraid to connect with people to figure out who you can be. Because I think humans need both individualism and collective community. You have to have both. And we don't have either right now, which is why we're suffering so much.
Yeah.
So Riot Grrrl for me is just figuring out your place in this world and being proud of it and not letting other people tell you who you are.
I love that. And I think Riot Grrrl, honestly, like, as we continue going on through this, like, most songs that I've talked about on this podcast, like, I come away with either some new understanding or a new perspective or like an even greater appreciation for. I think this song is, I would say, episode 99, I would say this is like the most, it like changed, my opinion has been, in a way. Yeah, changed the most I've kind of like had to additionally think about with the song, because I was 11 when I first heard this song, and I'm going to be 31 in a few weeks. Like, I will be 31 by the time this episode comes out. Like,
early happy birthday.
Thank you.
Congratulations on 99 episodes. That is no easy feat with a podcast. And if you do this much preparation, which you've done for hours for the previous 98, I like bow down and respect you.
Thank you. I do. Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah. And that's very, very admirable. And it's reflected in your interviewing skills and your questioning. It's really, really great. And I forgot what the third part of that I was going to say. That's okay. My brain just went away. It's fine.
All right. Well, Jessie, so I have a Generation GC and Friends Spotify playlist. So I'll put Riot Grrrl on it. And then I'd love to get a recommendation from you of anything you're listening to lately that's not Good Charlotte.
That's not Good Charlotte. I'm inclined to say the 1975 Happiness dance floor edit.
Okay.
Because that's what I've been listening to so much. And also, I take that back. Can I put a country song?
Absolutely.
There's a Martina McBride song called This One's for the Girls.
Okay.
And it's a Martina McBride. And I think it's a really good, it's like, again, I'm from North Carolina. I grew up in a farming town, so I'm country. I got country roots in me. And that song,
Southern accent. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So This One's for the Girls, I think, is more of an accurate representation of what a Riot Grrrl means. So maybe listening to those kind of next to each other might invoke cool conversations in someone's head about what it means to be a girl and what it means to be all that. I love that.
I'm going to go listen to that today. I love that. Yes. Thank you for the suggestion. Jessie, this has been absolutely wonderful. If people want to keep up with you, where can they find you online?
So I'm not super active on social media, but I do have an Instagram and a Twitter and stuff. All of my stuff is at Hey Jessie Raye. I do have a Patreon and a creative blog that I write about my own writing journey, my own healing journey, about my human experience. It's really a practice in my own creativity and what that looks like. I tried for a long time to it's putting myself in that box. I've done a podcast before. Do I want to be a writer? Do I want to be this or that? And I ended up never getting anything done. So I decided to look at it differently. So I have a blog that just expresses creativity and whatever that looks like. So, and you can find that at Patreon. It's at Hey Jessie Raye as well. Everything's at Hey Jessie Raye to keep it. So if anybody wants to reach out and connect about this or any other topic, I'm a really curious person and I love having conversations. So please feel free to seek me out.
Amazing. Jessie, this has been wonderful.
Oh my gosh, Molly, you're incredible. By the way,
Thank
I
you
love
so
you.
much.
I'm
Thank
such
you
your
so much.
I have
This
such
is
a
so
Twitter such a Twitter crush on you.
Thank you.
Everything that you post, I'm just like, oh, we would be best friends. If like, she's
Yes.
closer
Oh my
to me,
God.
we're best friends, best friends.
Oh my
Everything you
God.
post, yes.
Absolutely.
There's another girl that I feel this way about. Her name's Hannah. Her Twitter is Hannah Unlost, and I feel the same way about her. Do you know who she is?
Yes, and I also
I love Hannah.
I think I've even seen her at I've never met her, but like I know I'm like, she seems so cool.
Yeah, I feel that you two are two of my favorite internet
thank
people.
you. Oh my God. I love that, and I hope that we get to meet in real life.
Yes. Oh my gosh, let's meet at a show. Let's meet at a show one day. That would be incredible.
God, when Good Charlotte tours again, like
either Good Charlotte or Walk the Moon, because I know Miss Ma'am, you love Walk the Moon, and I love Walk the Moon so much.
My God.
We will go dance at a Walk the Moon.
Yes.
Show.
Oh my God. Oh my God, Jessie, this has been amazing. Listeners, thank you for tuning in. Last time we talked about I Heard You from Good Charlotte. On our next episode, we'll be talking about a song from the Chronicles of Life and Death. My name is Molly Hudelson once again, and as always, I am your host, as well as the producer, creator, and editor of this podcast. Please make sure to follow Generation GC or subscribe wherever you listen. Follow us on social media at Generation GC Pod, POD on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can follow me, Molly, at mhudelson, MHUDELSON on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you for tuning in. Please make sure to tell your friends, spread the word. That's how we make the Generation GC fam bigger and better.